We're talking about stripes. So to start, we have a new collection.
Yes. So I was really excited, and I think you all know that for the last year or so, I've been on the quest to always buy my cottons from places other than China. So I found cottons from Brazil, and I really like this company. And they're kind of new to the US, so it's fun to work with them. But they had a really great special, and I thought, wow, we could get these wonderful stripes, two colors, and have a really nice special rate. And rather than put them at the regular price and then put it on sale, I just put it in at the really good rate because we got a good rate. So um, it is a woven stripe, not a printed stripe, and that's really important. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but we have it in two colors. It's red and blue. Now the stripes are woven kind of like shot. So there's red threads in there, but there's also white threads mingled with them. So the red is subdued or a little bit lighter red, if you will. Same with the blue. It just kind of tones it down a little bit. But they're the classic stripes and they're in four different widths. And what got me so excited was that we often here, Brenda and I and others, we look at ready to wear and we see these great ideas in stripes, but often they're taking more than one scale of stripe or color or whatever, but they're kind of mixing them up. And I've always wanted to do that, but you don't often find that kind of,
It only works if it's the same
yes,
color,
exactly, from the
what you're
same,
talking about anyway.
exactly, when you want that exact. So,
Because we
anyway,
all know if you're working with red, how many shades of red. So like this, a wide red stripe and a narrow red stripe. One's a blue red, one's an orange red. It's not going to give the same
yeah, anyone
effect.
who's ever tried to match fabrics that didn't come from the same collection knows it's frustrating. But anyway, always loved that idea. So we kind of we said, okay, let's do that. We had to wait a little bit to get them in because again, they're coming from a long ways away. So we started to look in ready to wear for ideas. So here's one, and Jess, I'm gonna let you do the because I'm not as good at it. All right. So this one does have two different scales of a stripe. It's very almost not obvious. So it's very, would you call that? Subdued, but it's there and it's real cute, simple. And this fabric is 100% cotton. So it's going to be really cool for the summer. But the stripes are classic. So if you make a basic anything out of stripes, it will be in style as long as as long as you can wear it. Here's an interesting one. I think we have a sample actually of that one from years ago, something similar. But this is cut on the bias, or the stripes are printed. I don't know if they are printed or woven stripes here. But I particularly, you can see I circled the cuff because I really like this cuff. So, oh, here's a fun one. This is Karl Lagerfeld. And there's a lot of stripes going on in there. And I think these are all the same scale, but they are coming and going at all different directions with a little white collar. So just kind of, he really had fun with a classic stripe, but putting it together in a non-classic way. Okay, here is a shirt in the stripes, and I think these are probably from the same collection. So one is in two scales of a blue. I think it's a blue and white and a white and blue stripe. And these are out of the Saks catalog, and I believe that shirt is $595. It's on
Bargain.
that. It's on this thing at the top
It's a
somewhere.
bargain.
A bargain, yeah. So
5.95.
yeah, so here it is again. It has a very interesting technique in the back. So you noticed when you saw the front, it was a no button closure. So it was hidden buttons. I mean, not no buttons, but hidden button closure, which is really a nice, sleek, clean look. And then there's that very interesting pleat in the back, and there's no yoke. So that pleat just begins about a third of the way down. And it's kind of interesting, a very off the shoulder uh uh, sleeve. I mean, that's several inches off the shoulder. So that's interesting. We love to look at ready to wear when we're developing things, and uh, often we don't come up with exactly what we saw in the ready to wear, but we're using it as a starting point or an inspiration. So if you did see the newsletter, you saw the striped shirt that we created here. This was the inspiration for that shirt. Now, the shirt we made is just an off kimono sleeve. So just a little tiny short sleeve that comes, it is not sewn in, it's just part of the front. And I also omitted that one piece that you're going to see. Let me see if I can point at it right in here. I didn't do that. I kept mine very simple and straight in the front. But you can see the stripes are kind of going at a different in different directions as well as different scales. And here's a funny note. We found the exact same shirt in a second catalog. So this is the same shirt as you can see, and it says it's the same fabric and everything. This one is $110. The first one I showed you was 74, and it's exactly the same shirt. I'd be surprised if it wasn't from the same manufacturer. So it's kind of fun that way. We knew we were going to get all these stripes in. So as we were flipping through magazines or catalogs or the internet, and we a striped item caught our eye, that's what we did. So if you want to join this challenge that we put together and we have in the newsletter, it's a real low bar, no major commitment. It's more to inspire you or give you a reason to work with stripes or a reason to make something a little bit different for yourself. You know, oftentimes we always say we're going to do that, but if we don't have a deadline or a purpose to do it, it kind of goes by the wayside. So we're trying to give you a purpose to make something new for yourself with stripes. So you're going to find 4 different size stripes in each of the colors. We would like you to use at least 2 different stripes. Could be the 2 different colors, or it could be 2 different scales of the same color, or some people are doing like I did and they're getting all 4. So it's entirely up to you, but it could be a lot of fun. And I'm going to show you how I took that inspiration and changed a pattern to make it uh, to make something similar to what I was inspired by. Okay, let's see. I might have got off as usual. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about is how cool stripes are. So when, other than the look of them, but
Where sorry, the new stripes are under what?
cotton shirting. So go under shirting and go to cotton shirting.
Okay. I'm gonna
Yeah. And there you'll see all the new lawns too. And I'll talk about that later if people are interested more at the end of the program about the new lawns. But anyway, these what's cool about working with stripes, if it is a woven stripe, which this is, the stripe is the straight of grain. So now, as long as your fabric is laying flat and clean and neat, those stripes are straight, you just lay your straight of the grain line right on the stripe. You can use the stripe, one of those specific stripes for your center front. And then you can line up if you're going to do buttons or buttonholes, they'll go right down that stripe. No need to get out the chalk marker because you know that stripe is exactly where your center front. So you can use it for things like that. Or like when I cut out a cuff, I use the stripes to keep it straight. If you use the straight of grain and you measure, you could be off slightly and then your stripes are kind of a little wonky. And I think that's why some people are afraid of working with stripes. So use the stripe as the grain or as the straight edge so that everything in your stripe pattern lines up. But you can do that confidently because you know that it is the grain. Mm, And if you're making shirts, and we're not saying you have to make a shirt because we're leaving this wide open on the challenge. But if you are, one of the things to keep in mind so that 'cause sometimes people are worried you're going to have to match all the stripes. You don't have to. In a lot of cases, you just don't because the yoke, let's say you're cutting a stripe, a vertical stripe. Well, the yoke is cut on the cross grain. So now the stripes go across. So there's no matching, right? Same thing with all the other things like the pocket, but specifically the cuffs, the collar, the yoke, they're usually cut on the cross grain or you can cut them on the bias. And then they don't have to be matched and they add some real interest to the garment.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about like the first one that you showed. And a lot of times that's where people right in the front, you want that to match up. Well, they just did them going the other way.
Oh yes, the
The
placket down the
placket.
front. Yeah, stripes going the other way.
That makes it real easy.
Exactly. Exactly. That's it. That's what's kind of cool. So, anyways, we use some of those same tricks with plaids as well. So, just don't be afraid of working with stripes because you'll see that it isn't difficult. Back to the challenge. So, we don't have a lot of rules, just that you get at least two of the stripes. Um, you can make any garment from any pattern. We like you to declare your intentions by putting a comment on when you're checking out. In your cart, you're checking out, there's a little comment section. Just say, I'm planning to.
Mhm.
Uh, we will send you a yard free of the light and stable interfacing, which is the perfect interfacing for this weight of fabric. Then we'd like you to email us your finished garment by May 31st. So you have from now till the end of May to have fun with this challenge. And and all those that send them in by May 31st will receive a $20 gift certificate for the website.
And those who don't, Janet will come to your house and pick up the light and stable that she said.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Um, but you want to tell them Islander Sewing at Comcast.net. And of course, we'll be putting this in the newsletter and on the Facebook page multiple times. But you just purchase the striped fabric off the website. I did link it. But like Janet said, it's under shirting, cotton shirting. Any of the two stripes
Right. We have
up
red,
to
blue.
up to eight
Yeah, there's
say
8.
up to eight, but minimum of two. In that comment section, you declare, I declare I am
There's no
going to try to do this challenge.
There's no penalty
Yeah.
for not completing. That we don't want you to be intimidated, but we do want to inspire you. So
And
again,
is this challenge offered to our fabulous Canadian friends?
absolutely.
I'm just want to make sure.
Okay, we would never leave them
I
out. Are you
said it as
kidding?
such because I knew that was the answer,
Oh,
but I want Esther's asking, so I want to make sure
oh,
everybody
I've
knows.
already heard from at least one who's planning. She just said
She has declared.
well, nope, she's got stuff in the cart.
Okay.
And she's still working it. Still, maybe she's trying to come up with her inspiration before she decides which stripes she wants to get. But the one is so fine, it almost reads as a non-stripe. It's such a fine, fine
Yeah.
stripe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really nice fabric to work with. It takes the needle well. You don't need a fine thread. It isn't lawn. It's a couple of steps above lawn, but it's still a nice summer weight light cotton. Okay. Any questions so far before I go talking about?
You don't have a piece of it? I see some over there. Right there, right?
Mhm.
I can get.
Okay.
I just was gonna show them because you talked about the color.
Oh yeah, I didn't show them the blue in the newsletter. Okay.
I mean,
Oh yeah, that's what's left over from the shirt we did.
I linked the fabrics in the comment, but just to give you because she's been describing them.
That's the largest stripe there.
There's
And I put a tape measure along the swatch on the website. So you'll really be able to tell how wide each stripe is.
And this gives you an idea of what she was talking about, how it is a woven stripe, not a printed stripe. And it gives you that fun dimension, and kind of mutes the red. It's not a bright red.
Another thing to keep in mind is there's no wrong side to the fabric, but there is a wrong side to a pattern piece. So what I do when I cut out a woven stripe like that is I take my chalkener and I make X's on the back side of each piece after I cut it. That way I get to the sewing machine and I go, is this the right or the, oh, so
Especially if you're going off of your sloper and you have
yeah,
one shoulder that's a little bit lower than the other.
exactly. Some people use a little strip of painter's tape or masking tape, something, anything, a safety pin, who cares, as long as you uh keep yourself from getting confused.
So this is the smaller, just to give you an idea. Like Janet said, she's got the tape measure
That's a
on
small, that's a large, there's medium and mini.
mini. So these are your, yeah, whatever. That's what she said. Um,
Medium.
oh, yes, Brenda says I've marked the back ever since you taught me. I mean, it's so great to have a fabric that doesn't have a right or wrong side until you forget that part and you're like, oh, uh-oh, I picked this up and set it down, and did I do it right? And then the mini,
And again, that's reads
it's hardly,
almost not a stripe.
almost just like a texture look,
Correct.
but very cool. Very, very cool.
Actually, when I was first dating my husband and I made him a shirt and he loved it and he wanted more shirts. And so he would go into the fabric store with me and he'd look and look. And I go, what are you looking for? And he said, I want a stripe that's not a stripe. What? It's a stripe,
A
but it's
stripe
not.
is not a stripe.
Yeah.
Everybody
Well,
knows.
this was it. That was what he was looking for.
Or not a solid, not a stripe. That's what I
Exactly.
would say. It's like
Yeah.
not a solid, but it's not a stripe.
Yeah. So,
So
anyways, now I know what he meant.
now we have lots and lots of it, but he probably isn't getting a shirt. So
Actually, he can't get any more in his closet.
Sherry is wondering, if you plan to make the Shirt Maker Express, how much of each stripe fabric would you buy for the extra small to medium?
Yeah, you're just killing me here. Okay, so if you're going to make the Shirt
It's
Makers Express,
how much of each? I don't know. Are you going to do one sleeve a different stripe, or both
right?
sleeves, or
See,
one front or the back? I don't-
so here's what you do. You've got the pattern. How long is the sleeve? If both sleeves are going to be the same fabric, let's say the sleeve is 20 inches long or eight, let's say 18, because that's a half a yard. So you need a half a yard for the sleeves. Then you figure out the fronts. Are they both going to be the same? They're usually about 27 to 32 inches long. It just depends on your height. Um, so I can't tell you, besides, I don't know which stripe you want to put where. So what I've noticed some people are doing is they are buying between a half a yard and a yard of each of the stripes. Um, and then they're going to figure it out when they put it together. Or you find the design and kind of do a little map out for yourself. Is it short sleeves? You don't need as much.
Sherry, just buy like 5 yards of each, and then you know for sure.
No, and
You
other
can
people.
buy, you can you can make as many shirts until you run out of stripes.
There you go. No. So I think that's it. I'm going to show you one that I did and give you some ideas on how to take a pattern that already fits you and make some changes. So, but I can't answer your question only to tell you to map it out. So you can, the width of the fabric. Now, oh, that's the other great thing about the good price on this fabric, and it's wide. It's not 45. I think it's 59.
You gonna put money on that?
Sure.
It's 58.
Okay. I lose. Good thing I didn't bet any cash. Uh, so anyways, it's 58 wide. So keep that in mind too. So you can just measure your pattern piece. How many can you get across to 58? how, which ones do you want to do out of which stripe. And you know what? When I do something like that, I'm going to tell you that I always sort of throw myself a little extra. So, like, especially if you needed 27 inches, I'd get a yard. You kind of have to when you're buying online anyway, but then you've got that few extra inches in case you didn't do the math just right, or you change your mind and you want to use it as a facing too or whatever. So, but you know what your maximum you need for the shirt from the back. So if it's 60 inches wide and you're making the Shirt Makers Express, all the way up to a size small, it takes 2 yards. Then it's like two, not even 2.5, up to 2x, and it's 3 and 4x need 3 yards. So kind of figure that and maybe give yourself a little cushion of an extra half yard somewhere. I'm only telling you what I would do. So, let's see. So, should we talk about the shirt that I did?
Nah.
All right. Do you have any questions that we need to answer before we do that?
Um,
Nope. All right. So, when I went to do mine and I found my inspiration, I decided that I would use the pattern that I made from the Stop the Insanity series we did. And it's all on YouTube. It's also here on Facebook, but it's easier to find in the playlist on YouTube. It's called Stop the Insanity series. And we did several. I don't know if we did 5 or 7 different ones, but it was all about using the patterns you already have and you love and they already they fit you where they need to fit you rather than reinventing the wheel. If you've got a long sleeve shirt pattern, which is this is the one I started with and I had it fitting me really nice, why do I want to go start over again with a camp shirt? I can turn this into a camp shirt really easily. So that's what we did in the Stop the Insanity series. And so let me pull a couple of these up here. So this is a camp shirt that I created in a Stop the Insanity series using again the Shirt Makers Express. This is also from the Stop the Insanity series and the Shirt Makers Express. This has a arm side with a fitted sleeve. This one has a kimono style sleeve. So when you do a kimono style sleeve, it's just that it comes out from the seam, side seam, and just sort of curves out. And this comes at a slant. We show you how to do that on that series. But you could actually extend that and add a sleeve to it and have kind of the look of that one um, expensive shirt. So you could add that sleeve down below and have a different look. So the same pattern, all these shirts, the blue shirt in the back, same pattern. So why reinvent the wheel is the whole concept. So this is the one I did out of the stripes. Oh, and the one I'm wearing is from that camp shirt, episode 2. This is linen and rayon, and it's about 40 or 50 pounds ago from 2 years ago. So it's kind of big on me. But because it's rayon, it kind of drapes nice. So I'm getting away with it, but I really need to take it in. Okay, so as you can see, uh the stripes are going horizontal on this section, vertical on this one. But then there's a little diagonal here. And I'm going to show you how I made these pattern pieces really easily. So on the example, they had done this button placket in the back. So I decided I wanted to do that too. It just makes the shirt a little more upscale because it has some back interest. And all I did was is I cut this side out, including a placket just like the front is. So all you do is add that distance for the placket, create the placket. This gets inserted into that fold, stitch it down. Now I didn't even do buttonholes. I didn't think you need to. I just sewed the buttons on there. Okay, and you can see the collar is the large stripe, and the collar stand is the small stripe.
Will you fold it back down because it wasn't on the camera? Maybe.
Yeah. So here's the large stripe, here's the medium stripe, here's the small stripe. And I used the really mini stripe for the,
For something.
see, where did I use it? I used it here. Yes, I used it for this facing around the arm, around the kimono sleeve. Thought I used it one other place, but I don't see it.
Maybe you auditioned at one other place.
Maybe. Anyway, it was fun. So I used all four, but you only have to use two, but use as many as you like. So let's go over and talk about how to change that pattern. So if you have a pattern that already fits you, you don't have to start with this one. But if you want to follow that Stop the Insanity series, this is a good one to start with. And again, that's the Women's Shirt Makers Express. And it comes very small all the way to 4X. All right, I'm going to move over here just to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right, so here's my original kimono sleeve camp shirt. And uh I'm always telling you when you do your patterns or trace them, you should put dates on, especially if you've altered them. So this was done in 22, so almost exactly 2 years ago, 4/24/22. So that was the right and left front. But I knew that the left front is going to have this diagonal um, diagonal piecing right here. So I take a look at my picture and I try to decide approximately, and I think one of the other pictures was better, but sort of like where does that line start in the front and where does it end on the side? So I can't see it as well here, but anyways, that's what you need to do if you're trying to copy ready to wear. Kind of look at the proportion of where that stripe is and how much of that shirt is. This is like about a third and this is about 2/3. So if you're shorter than the model, yours might be a little bit different, but maybe you can pick up just what the proportions are. So in order to create that for the right side, I took this and I cut this as my left side, which is the total vertical. Then I turn it over because that will make it automatically the right side. And I found where I thought that proportion would be best on me. And remember, I'm only 5'1". So you can see it's probably still about that 1/3 to 2/3 proportion, but there's not as much shirt down here on me as there is on her. So anyways, I made that line. So to make these two pattern pieces, I'm going to trace this out, but this is not my cut line. That's my stitching line. So I'm going to add seam allowance that I want, which probably is going to be 3/8 for me beyond that line. And this is the pattern piece. So you can see there's that line and I've added the 3/8. Same thing for the bottom. This is my stitching line and I add my seam allowance. And now I have the left front. It's just that easy. I sew those two together, and the right front, left front. Then on the back, I cut, as you usually do with a striped shirt, the yoke on the cross grain. It's always good to cut the yoke on the cross grain for a couple of reasons, but the stripes, it does give it uh, a nice designer look, but it also, cross grain of fabric usually gives a little bit more than straight grain. So in this area, that is an area you need movement. Okay, so then the back for me, I I added that So what I would have done, I don't have the piece here because I just sort of hacked it, but I'm going to take that front piece that is the button placket and add it to that one side of the back. So I don't cut the back on the fold anymore. I cut one side, add the seam allowance. The other side, I'm going to add that placket folding to. So that's all you do different in the back. And again, this is for the one I did. I'm not asking you to copy mine unless you want to, go right ahead. But just giving you an idea of how all that is easier than you might think. And now I have like a fourth or fifth different style off of the same pattern. I've got my kimono style, I've got my set-in sleeve style, I can make it long sleeve. I can turn it into a dress or a tunic as well. So all this from the same pattern, the same simple pattern. I think that's all that I have to offer on that, unless there are questions or something specific about copying ready to wear or using an existing pattern.
Mary is asking what kind of hem on the sleeves?
The sleeve, I did my own little, you would ask that, Mary. Okay, so I made a facing, but I made the facing wide enough that it would stick out and become trim at the same time.
I am going to get closer
Okay,
because it's very, very cool, and I'm not doing it just as that, just by zooming in.
okay, so it's a facing, and I made it wide enough, like this extra quarter inch, not quite a quarter inch wider, so that it would trim the outside as well as face the armhole. And that's just something I kind of made up as I went along, but I'm happy to share the exact detail if you come across something you want to do that with, Mary. I like the kimono sleeve for a quick uh, top to make for summer. It's just, there's not a lot of work. You don't have to cut or insert a sleeve. You just got a nice open opening for your arm, and it's comfortable and it's cool. All right. If there are any more questions, I want to just remind you of all these great new lawns we got in, and they're a little bit different than the lawns we had last year. So we put them in the kits for the Islander shirt. Am I doing this right, Jess?
Yes.
Okay, the Islander shirt kit, but obviously they're available by the half yard as well. And there's some great ones. And again, these are from Brazil, and they don't take the finer thread. They're just a weight higher than what we had last year, where we were highly recommending you got a lighter weight thread. These I've sewn on, and they work well with the basic construction thread, every one that I've used so far. So they're beautiful, they're cool, they're comfortable, and they're reasonably priced. So take a look at all the new lawns that we got in for the Islander shirt, or for your own Stop the Insanity camp shirt.
And then, did you want to talk about ditto form?
Oh, yeah, I want to remind everyone about Ditto Form. Now, last month, we did a little demo and talked, and we had Carol Hulse, who is the owner and master carver for Ditto Form. And she was here and explained it. And unfortunately, Facebook was having some kind of glitch that day. And I think we lost part of that. So I'll just tell you quickly that the Ditto form, we've talked about it before. You can see one for yourself in the Knit Fit series starting in lesson 2. That would be Brenda's. It is an exact replica of your body, no kidding. And that is almost a miracle, but it's a fabulous miracle for those of us who want to fit ourselves and can't quite seem to get it fit in all the places we can't reach or see. So now you can kind of walk around it. It's pretty cool. She has a website. You can go look for yourself and see what you think. It's dittoform.com. And she is going to be traveling starting the 25th of April through Indiana, St. Louis, and she's going to be in Chicago, and she's also going to be in Minneapolis, and then, of course, all the parts in between. If you are interested in seeing Carol about a ditto form, that would be a good opportunity if you live anywhere in that driving path that she's going to be taking. So contact her on her website if you are. I highly recommend it. It's a great product. Mine's on order. I got scanned a little bit ago, and I'm waiting to see mine. And I'm going to be excited to work with it as well because it's really helped us work on fitting Brenda. So again, dittoform.com. That's Carol Hall's.
And I put her address in the comment.
Okay, excellent. So it'd be a great opportunity, at least, to talk to her about. She will stop and see you if you are of a mind to have a ditto form.
All right. Heidi, a fan from Finland,
Oh,
would like to show
so
the
honored.
facing again and know a little bit about how you constructed it. So I'm gonna get closer.
I gotta stop and think. Okay, so I sew. Let's see. Yes, I sewed it to the right side. I trimmed the seam allowance down really thin. Brought it to the wrong side. Now, Heidi, if you're a fan and you know Islander sewing, we don't use pins. So or press in advance. So I just turned that raw edge down as I stitched it down. And then it creates a little stitching line on the outside. Now, the only time you want to stitch from the inside and have the stitching show on the outside is if you have a machine that gives you perfectly straight stitches from the bottom. And some machines don't. If they have a lot of zigzag capability, that might be a little crooked, and I wouldn't like that. I want my stitches nice and straight. So do a little test if you think that might be the case. I just wanted this nice and flat, and it is. It's really nice and flat. And want all the so many times where you sew the seam and where you turn the fabric under is all on top of each other, and you sew it down. And that's okay for a cuff on a shirt, but sometimes you just want it to be flat and soft and not be so bulky. So that's why I did it that way. I'm so glad you joined us from Finland. That's fabulous. Thank you. All right, then. I think that's all for today.
Declare